How sensitive are native English speakers to grammar errors? It's not that confusing. A lot of native English speakers have terrible grammar anyway, especially when texting. We can tell. The careful among us can usually guess your native language based on what errors you make. We almost never care unless someone is misrepresenting themselves. Some examples I think not that terrible. I like go their driving car. Those child is playing around. He is the most fantastic dancer here, what mean he is so cool at it. Okay, examples. Another one. Context matters. Native speakers in formal settings need to use correct grammar, but in party settings or casual settings, we are much more forgiving. And non-native speakers are usually given a lot of leeway because this is not their first language. Plus, certain groups just have different grammar rules. British English, Australian English, Indian English, and American English are different. American Standard English and American Black English have different rules. In certain settings, the black version is completely welcome, like with sportscasters of sporting events. It's fine. It isn't lesser, just different. Also, because native speakers never learned English to speak, they acquired it, they often make grammar errors that non-native speakers learned. Essentially, we don't know the rules. We just speak the language. It normally comes down to how it impacts communication. The more difficult it makes communication, then it's likely the more frustrated the folks involved will be. Most people don't care that much, as long as we can understand what you mean. The ones who do care mostly only care about adults who speak English as their first language making common mistakes, though they rarely stop to check first. The thing is, when we don't care, we just ignore it. But if 100 people see each of your comments, and only one out of them cares, it will seem like you're getting corrected constantly. Also worth noting that at least some of the people correcting you are doing it with good intentions, trying to help you. Whether it comes across as helpful or annoying may vary. Lol. Most native English speakers I know have terrible grammar and spelling. They don't care much unless you get the elitists. I don't mind at all if non-native English speakers make grammar errors. I mind a lot if native English speakers do, though. Don't worry. I'm native English and my spelling and grammar is not the best. If anyone does actually comment to me about it, well, at least I gave them something to complain about for 5 minutes. Overall, I don't worry, it's not that important, just do your best and honestly y'all be fine. Unless you're using the wrong one entirely, it'll be fine. Chances are there's a dialect of English where you mistake is the norm. In the US there are hundreds of dialects, all of which have their own ways of saying things. UK is the same. Most of us wouldn't bat an eye at weird grammar or minor mistakes. We might question you if we don't understand something, but the majority aren't assholes in that regard. It depends on the person. There are some English speakers who feel the need to judge and/or correct people's grammar, but there are also those who don't care so long as they can understand what you're saying. In my experience, you'll find mostly the latter. Even many native English speakers make a lot of grammatical errors where you could argue that they are simply speaking another dialect. He come in last night with a fever. You good, I don't need no lecture. It don't matter why you want to do that, I didn't say nothing. In my experience, most people don't care as long as you can get the point across. Especially in the cities, people interact with non-native speakers on a daily basis. I'm married to a non-native speaker who has lived in the US for 37 years and still frequently makes the kinds of mistakes you talk about. Yes, I notice them, but very rarely do I not understand what she's saying. Don't worry about it, you're fine. Most of the time it's easy to understand what you meant to say, so it's no big deal. Most people won't say anything about it. If someone is shitty to you about it and they are also American, ask them how many languages they can speak and call them the grammar police. Signed a monolingual American. I'm sometime mocked for my mistakes online because my English is good enough to make it look like I'm just a native who happened to be bad at grammar, but not bad enough to make it obvious I'm still learning. But to be honest, people speaking my language French are way more judgmental towards the French to make mistakes in our own language. They will openly shame you online. I find the vast majority aren't great with English. As someone who didn't learn English until later on, it amazes me how bad some people's English is when they've had their whole lives to learn it. Really, online is the only time I see people really bothered by it. And most commonly, it's just as a means to try to undermine someone else in a discussion because they lack a good argument. For me, it depends. If I know English is not someone's first language, or that they were disadvantaged in education somehow, developmental delay, learning differences, access, quality of education available, family situations, then definitely not caring. If someone has advanced degrees, communicates professionally, copy editor, journalist, author, speaker, PR, etc., is giving out misinformation, or is failing at spelling and grammar while insulting someone? Then yeah, if you're going to act like you're better than others or you're responsible for education disseminating information, you should at least be capable of doing it properly. Edit to add that even people who are super educated have to look up grammar rules or check spelling. I constantly second guess and double check myself. I would be impressed by how well you are speaking English. It's a tough language to learn. I would be more than happy to do some work to understand you. If you asked for help with your grammar, I would help, but not until you ask.